My name is Chen. I am a nurse consultant in one of the NHS trusts in the Northwest. And I suppose my task is to talk about work ethics a little bit. But also, I suppose, just a disclaimer, I'm not a director. I don't own a business. I don't intend to own a business. I am happily and gainfully employed in the NHS. I suppose one of the things that has become apparent, I think, as we've run some of these sessions is how probably as a resource, human resource is probably your greatest expense as directors. And I think Sam said, it feels like, of course, a funeral in here. So I suppose my job is to lighten up the mood. But human resources are probably your greatest expense. But what we're seeing is probably a lack of investment in that human resource. And then that causes, I suppose, problems in the long run. So there's something about training, and there's something about honest, genuine conversations in the workplace that seems to be maybe lacking or that needs to improve. And so we're seeing a lot of people, I suppose, a lot of organizations being pulled down by the very same people that we gainfully employ, partly because they're not disciplined. They lack discipline. They lack professionalism. They lack the work ethic and the same vision that maybe you yourselves as directors have for your companies. And that's problematic, and certainly something that we're seeing in the NHS. And so why do I come and talk about this? I suppose as an encouragement, I guess, because you spend a lot of time doing recruitment and spend a lot of money recruiting people and putting systems and processes in place only to find yourselves, I suppose, losing those same people or spending a lot of time paying out in terms of sickness or claims being put against you, which is just, I suppose, a pity. I think when we went into a workforce crisis, a lot of companies were set up and a lot of people employed relatives, people from other countries and so on, Zimbabwe included, because that's where I'm from. And they came at the right time, I think, to support services and your organizations and companies, but didn't necessarily have the acumen that maybe is required to work in a UK system. And so you find some issues that shouldn't really be issues occurring. And whilst they may have mandatory training, there's something around having a genuine conversations about what the United Kingdom maybe entails, what a health system here entails, what is expected of people when they work in organizations. Recently, I talked to a woman who had been referred to the police, and so we're seeing unprecedented numbers going through NMC, for example. Our nurses are going through the NMC for very petty cultural differences, I suppose, in terms of systems. And this woman had patted a nice little old lady on the cheek as she was trying to get her up. And a simple pat turned out into an assault charge that went to the police. And there was no criminal offense there. The police said there's no crime to answer. But the NMC definitely had issues with it because this poor old lady's cheeks went red and the family complained profusely. Now, when we had a conversation with her, she said, well, in Zimbabwe, this is what we do. We just, we pat them on the cheeks and we say, darling and sweetheart. The plea is to invest in the conversation. You know, I talk to a lot of people. I have a large contingent of international nurses that I look after. And we talk about basic things like weather. And we find that people have come and have not been told how cold it is. And so they struggle. They really struggle and get depressed and can't survive simple things. And yet it would be far easier as employers for a sit down, for a conversation around the United Kingdom is cold. Come here expecting that it's going to be cold. Come here expecting that if you're going to drive a car, that it should have MOT and insurance and there's no cutting of corners, because if you do cut the corners, we will prosecute you and it will affect your employment and it will have an impact on your business. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. But we need to have conversations, I think, as directors around self-awareness. And I think even to the directors themselves, yourselves, I think having clarity in terms of vision, in terms of expectation, and articulating those expectations is something I think that would be really helpful in helping organizations to thrive. So for example, where I work, and certainly something that I'm trying to do as an entity, is to push work ethics and to have conversations around professionalism and professional boundaries. Sometimes the way we speak, even just the way we converse, you know, I talk to my Nigerian friends, and even when they're saying the loveliest of things, their intonation is such that you think they're shouting. And so it's always a fight. And they're like, oh, but Chen, I was saying hello. And you're like, oh, that hello was too strong. And so people come into conflict because the intonation might be all wrong. And then we complain about racism, and we complain about so many other things that then lead us into tribunals and lead us into difficulty. But we, as directors, yourselves as directors, have not articulated your expectations. You've not articulated what the expectation and what the reality of the situation will be. I think there is space here to start those conversations. And so above and beyond mandatory training, I think mandatory training is good, but it's not enough. It isn't enough. We're spending way too much time that we should be investing in looking after patients properly, having what I deem silly conversations, but that are costly to yourselves and costly to your businesses, but also costly to patient care. So if we are setting up these organizations and these companies, not just purely as a financial incentive, but if you are setting up these companies as a way to improve outcomes, as a way to improve patient care, as a way to contribute to the general health system, then I think you have a responsibility as directors to have conversations. You have a responsibility to prepare your workforce adequately and sufficiently so that we are fair with one another. Because unfortunately, you know, people are struggling. Your employees are absolutely struggling. And then I think you, in turn, struggle. You know, I was approached recently by someone who said, Chen, can you come and deliver professional boundaries and relationships to my managers? Because they're angry all the time. And I was like, why are the managers angry all the time? And they're angry all the time because they're constantly having complaints made to them by social services. They're constantly having complaints made to them by families. Because the things that we should take seriously, people are not taking seriously. Because in other countries, probably those things don't matter. And so you need to advise us as your employees that in this country, patients are king, because they are. Patients are important because they are. And so if you are to generate the monies that Sam and Kudze are going to help you manage, then you need to absolutely have the conversation. Self-awareness does not cost much. Telling people to be respectful does not cost much. Telling people to turn up to wherever it is they're working on time does not cost much. Telling people to be kind to one another and sensitive does not cost much. Telling people to observe the law does not cost much. But it's a responsibility that you have. And I think you need to go above and beyond just mandatory training. It needs to go above and beyond just compliance. It needs to go above and beyond just employing and saying you've got a job and you owe me because I brought you to the United Kingdom. I think, you know, you owe us, certainly as a people, to be humane in your recruitment and in your processes and in your thinking. And I think you owe the society and the people that you serve the respect that comes with people being professional, and you owe your businesses, I suppose, the integrity with which you want to set them up. I've not come across a lot of people who, I suppose, do professional boundaries and relationships as a training program. I've not come across a lot of people, but I think they are out there. I think they're out there, and I think it's definitely a conversation to start. And if they're not out there, I think it's something that we definitely from the Health and Social Care Network are thinking about, and something that I talk to Wilson about a lot. And so I guess I come here with that plea, that you look at yourselves, you introspect, I suppose, as organizations, and really think above and beyond the pay that you give people monthly, what else are you giving back? Are we setting people up to fail? Because sometimes, yes, you save us from, I suppose, the poverty of Zimbabwe in over a month, but long term, are you really preparing people for the countries that you brought them to? Or are you preparing people to fail? I had a woman last week whose children were taken away from her because she'd come to work and had a conversation. And in conversations with staff, just general conversation, she likes to talk, she likes to chat, and there's nothing wrong with chatting and talking. But in that chatting and talking, she talked about how her children were watching TV whilst she was at work. And the staff did not tell her that they found anything particularly concerning about this. And she was just describing how happy the children were with this 65-inch television that they'd suddenly acquired. But in that, someone picked up that these children might have been left alone. And so a report was immediately made. And because we are in the NHS and because we're responsible, we had to check. And there's nothing more painful than another African black woman having a conversation with another African black woman, i.e. me, about, did you leave your children at home on their own? Did no one tell you that this is illegal if they are below the age of 12? And realizing that actually no one had told her. And she thought it was okay because this is what she did when she was in Zimbabwe and no one had ever bothered. And yet, for us here, it's difficult. And now she's having to fight for those same children that she comes to work for because no one said, no one advised, no one told her that the systems are different. Simple conversations, but with long-lasting impact. And I suppose when you think about the professional impact of just that, because she's a nurse and because we have referred to social services, NMC will want to know. NMC will be concerned about what sort of an individual she is. Her character comes into question. Her nursing profession comes into question. And actually, if we're not careful, if we do not fight this carefully, she might be deported. All because someone did not say. I will end there, but I think the message is clear. I think the message and the plea is clear. I think you have a responsibility. Above and beyond paying tax, you have a responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope there's no questions. I don't know. I hope there's no questions. Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much for the valuable information that you have shared with us. But I've got a big problem. I've done research within the last 3 years. I've been a director in our company, talking to people who have recruited some carers from different countries. My findings, I stand to be corrected. 80 to 90% of people who have been recruited, no matter how robust the recruitment policies that Mr. Mshande has given us, which we try to implement, they don't work. They come here to live in the UK, not to come and be carers. They just want to spend the next 3 to 5 years and get their citizenship and then leave. And what has happened in most cases is they work for the first 2 years, and then they hear of these big local companies owned by local people who have got better contracts. The kind of clients they get are very easy. You just go there, make a cup of coffee, and they go out, and they are paid better than us startup companies. And then you find they start resigning, and then sometimes they don't even give you any notice. They just tell you, I'm resigning with immediate effect. And you cannot take them anyway. So these are the problem that most directors here are faced with. No matter how good your recruitment policy is, you go and get those people, they are coming with a mindset They even talk about it when they're still back home in Zimbabwe, Nigeria, wherever, to say, oh, okay, that's fine. When we get there, we'll run away. We hear these stories. I've made a research. They talk about when they're doing their applications. They'll say, oh, okay, don't worry. And they spread this information through WhatsApp groups to say, okay, this is what you do. You go and wait for this company. It's just maybe for 6 months, gain a bit of experience, then you go and work for another company, a local company owned by the local guys who have access to better contracts.
Yes, I think that's a fair point. But I'm a firm believer that people stay because of the people that they work with and the people that they work for. And so even these big organizations, if you have not put in the right support, having the right conversations, they will leave anyway. So, it's that chicken and egg stuff that Sam was talking about. I think what you really need to think about is what conversations are you having? Because, well, I work in the NHS, and we all know there is no money in the NHS. So I'm not working in the NHS because I'm paid well. I'm working in the NHS because of the systems that are in place. I'm working in the NHS because of the value that the NHS places on me as an individual, as an employee, and the training that I receive and the support that I receive.
Just to add up on you have not addressed this basic problem. People don't want to come and work as nurses and carers in this country. Mm-hmm. They want to come and live here.
Yes.
So how do we address that?
Do you want to answer that one?
Sorry.
Yeah, don't bring them.
Okay, this is a hot topic. Okay, this is a hot topic.
I'll come from a neutral point of view because I'm not in the healthcare. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that they are good employers,
yes,
and there is also very bad employers.
Yes.
The people that, and they are good employees
and bad employees.
And bad employees. But another solicitor at the back should be there to have their own experiences, because both employers and employees come to us lawyers to complain, to those complaints.
Yeah.
I think maybe one of the starting points was the relationships when they were established at some point, they were not established on a proper platform.
Yes.
When people started recruiting relatives,
yes,
family, friends, some under the carpet transactions,
yes,
happening so much that the employee, when they come here, and they know that some 15,000
exchanged hands,
and you can't say anything to them because they will say you owe me money, and so forth. And then some employers, you've got the attitude that I brought you from outside the country. And some people, an opportunity came up in the healthcare, and everyone just went into the healthcare without properly having the systems, procedures, and policies. They became a director overnight.
Yes.
And they've never had any training of being a company owner, and so forth. Now they're all of a sudden, because of a sponsor license, they've got 200 employees, and they can't manage them, and so forth. So, as employers, we need to do more. I know some employers I do audits, some employers are doing more than necessary. Some of them, they're not doing anything at all, and they are rogue employers, to use that term. And then at the same time, we've got employees that come to take advantage, like you're saying. They've seen an opportunity to come to the UK. They want to use you just as a way of getting their indefinite leave to remain and then settlement and so forth. But I think if they are treated fairly in those circumstances, I'm sure they will be able to perform their duties properly. But some are underpaid, not paid. Contracts are breached. They are paying according to hours that they've worked instead of the contractual hours and so forth. So there's a lot of things. As a firm, we ended up starting this Telegram group that we have, or which we call the Tier 2 support group, where we discuss things with all the employees who want to join. Things like simple as how do you get a school place for your child,
yes,
how to integrate in the local community, how to look for insurance online. There was no insurance in Zimbabwe, online purchasing and so forth, let alone paying the insurance itself and so forth. So some of the things that we've done on our part.
Yeah. Sorry, do you mind standing? Sorry. Yeah.
So another lawyer follows another lawyer. I guess from what I would like to comment, or maybe even ask, we've talked about it from the perspective of somebody who is almost being orientated, isn't it? Do this works. But do we also talk, I guess, understanding the unconscious and conscious bias that also exists within the systems that are within where we operate. And I think I've been listening to everybody from this morning, and it's in this, I guess my worry is we're looking at it from our perspective as Black or ethnic minority people. But in which environment are we operating? And is that environment conducive for us to operate? And therefore, do we also need to talk about the unconscious bias that happens, the conscious bias that happens, the discriminatory practices that happens, which are beyond our control? We could want to be good employers, but we get paid peanuts. We could want to be a good employee, but we think about what we've left home. So in thinking about our ethics and what we're thinking about, do we also orientate people around the unconscious and the conscious and the discriminatory practices that happen?
I think to answer that, I think that's my point. That's partly my point. We're coming into a set system, and we cannot run away from institutional or societal racism, for example. And the people that you're employing are coming into exactly that, but are not aware that they're coming into these things or what these things look like or feel like. And so you find there's always going to be a clash, unconscious or conscious, but you have a responsibility to articulate that actually you might encounter this and this is what it looks like, and to put systems in place that support, but to raise awareness. Because actually when people are not aware, it is more harmful, it is more hurtful. But when people are aware, so, I was talking to someone who said, oh my God, Chen, I didn't realize how Black I was. And I was like, what do you mean you didn't realize how Black you are? And they were the only Black person on the whole ward that they worked on. And it was difficult for them because, for example, they would go with their jollof rice to work and it would stink up the whole ward. And everyone would be in shock. What's this? And you end up having to explain. They felt embarrassed, and actually there's nothing to be embarrassed about. That's your culture. But how do you articulate that? How do you make it acceptable, and how do you have those conversations with people? But if I'm coming from Chegu to over there and I don't know anything, and I just think, oh, well, I'm here, you will all of a sudden really feel Black, and people will make you feel Black and make you feel small and make you feel unworthy. And yet, it's not about that. There needs to be a conversation. There really needs to be a conversation.
Okay, I agree. But for me, the biggest thing is, at the end of the day, let us not forget, we are humans, we're infallible.
Yeah, I just want to appreciate the conversation that we are having today. But also because as a director, we encounter so many challenges when you're working with people who have come into a new culture. And right here, I am looking around and I can see a very good gentleman who's white. We're not engaging him. A lady who's white. We're not engaging him, and we're not trying to find out how else can we encompass and bring these people within our environment. So I'm one who challenges this notion of self-conscious and unconscious mindset. When we bring these people, we know that we've gone through a series of events in our life here, 20, 30, 40 years, 11, 5 years. It's taken you time to understand this is how I can run a business in this country, this is what I need to do, These people, they land here and you take them to start looking after somebody who is very weak and vulnerable. They have no idea about their tea, their coffee, the way they want to do, they like their theater. They do take them to these theaters, but it takes them time. It is our responsibility as directors, I feel, to take upon our profits and encourage these people to go and watch videos, seminars, theaters. Go with them and talk to them about the culture you are in is different from where you're coming from. And I think it will make a big difference to the employees you're working with. I feel what the gentleman who is a lawyer has obviously dealt with challenging behaviors with directors who are new in this business. What we should be doing is encouraging new directors and giving them a vision of how to change or understand the business concepts. And this environment today is the perfect environment, and I appreciate those who've organized it. So thank you.
Thank you. You had something else to add?
Thank you. I think this is a very sensitive topic, and I see what my brother is saying, and also what the lawyer is saying as well. The line of the director, the lawyer. I think what has happened is we are not seeing this as an investment. Yeah, when we bring people from Zimbabwe, Nigeria, wherever we're bringing people from, it's an investment on its own. What we are seeing is we have brought people and we are going to make a lot of money because we're going to have a lot of hours. These people still need the training. These people still need to integrate. Like what the lawyer was saying, that, there's been some deals, where people are coming and also are bringing relatives and whatever. Just take somebody from the kitchen where they was a teacher, never used a laptop or a computer or anything, let alone has never had a phone that is digitalized. He's got that chimbuzi, Zimbabwe, those who know chimbuzi in Zimbabwe, right? You bring them here, and they just do what do you call it, an induction, a small induction. Then there they are, out there, having to go and take care of people. That is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. We have employed over 60 to 70 people from across Africa. And I can stand here even on record that I have never taken even a 1p or $1 from anybody. Because every one of those people are an investment in my company. So what we have done is we have put over 100,000 aside for investment and training only. Yeah, since they came in until today. Some of them right now we are renewing their COSs because we took them on 3 years, so we are renewing because the 3 years is almost done. And we have never made them pay. If anything, we are actually paying them. We actually give loans for them to buy cars, nice cars, at 0% interest. All they need to do is they need to pay back to the company. If they are having struggles, we give loans 0% interest because we want to try and make sure that these people. Richard Branson did say that if you treat your employees well, they have no reason to leave. Yeah, I'm going to touch wood like what the English people do. I don't know why they do it, but none of our employees have left since they came. And
that's good.
Majority, because we are in children's services, majority now, I think what we did is also because our recruitment was not who we know or whatever. We took professionals in Zimbabwe. I've got professors, I've got doctors, I've got managers who are coming from banks, managers, and they've got different skills, right? Some of those managers now are level 5. They're actually managers in some of my homes right now as we speak. They are deputy managers, they are leaders in those homes. We have trained them. We have invested money to train them. Even if they leave tomorrow, I've got no problem with that. After all, people do leave. But they are not going to leave and say this company was this, that. No. Because if anything, we've empowered them. Yeah, and they've got no reason to leave right now as we speak, no reason at all. We pay them over and above the minimum wage that Home Office says we should pay, because that is what we pay the local people. So they are paid the same salary as the local people. Why not? Because they are also trained. And majority of them are actually more trained than the local people. Yeah. Ofsted at some point did ask me, they said, these people are overqualified. Why are they working with children? Because they're overqualified. We're talking of people with PhDs, talking of people with degrees and the like. So it's how we treat them. It's how we treat them. These are not just people who have to make money. Ladies and gentlemen, if we are doing that, these are the businesses that are going to die a natural death. Because these people are going to leave anyway. And you will be left with no one. Invest in your business on training and making sure that you look after your staff. Yeah, we gave 2 months free rent in our houses for all our staff, and some of them stayed for more than 6 months because they didn't have anywhere to go. Yeah, we can't put them in the streets. We can't do that, right? So it's all about us, and this whole thing has to change, because I'm hearing these stories a lot, especially home care. Yeah, you expect people to go to work. They don't even have a car, they don't even, you know, what you just want is just give them the shift and go to work. Come on. And want them to perform. Invest in them. Trainings.